sneaking from neighboring countries and flooding our market. So it's actually compressing whatever we have here, and so many of those processors have dead stock. So what is the ministry doing to mitigate that, and at the same time for compensate farmers who've supplied milk and new KCC are sold but not paying them? Thank you.
Senator Morango.
Asante sana, Mstahiki Speaker. Swali langu linahusu Munda, kwa sababu unajua waziri, swali usema mnyonge mnyongeni na haki yake umpe. Nimeona umesema kwamba kuna mazungumzo inaendelea ili wale ambao hawakulipa pesa zao waweze kupata pesa zao. Lakini ukipiga hesabu ni takriban miaka 27 imeisha. Wengi washakufa, bado wanangojea pesa zao. Waziri, ningekuuliza kama ungekuwa wewe, ungekuwa na uwezo wa kungojea miaka karibu 30 pesa zinje, na hali uko na mambo ambao unafaa kutumia ile pesa kufanya. Kwa hivyo inawezekanaje utupe muda ambao unaona kama unakandilia inaweza kumaliziwa ili hao watu waweze kufaidika na pia waweze kupata nafuu, kwa sababu hiyo pesa yao imekaa kwa muda mrefu sana. Na ya mwisho waziri, ni kwamba unajua nchi inashikiliwa sana na wakulima. Vyama vingi vya ushirika ambavyo vimeanguka na vingi vinaenda na pesa wakulima, vimeenda kwa sababu ya uongozi mbaya katika vyama vya ushirika. Unafanyaje kuhakikisha kwamba jambo kama hili lilifanyika katika KCC haitarudiwa tena? Asante sana, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Mandela.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. My supplementary question, Honorable Speaker, is in relation to what the Cabinet Secretary has said in terms of the assets. Honorable Speaker, I asked a statement in September 2024 on the issue of assets of new KCC, and the Cabinet Secretary had committed to provide a list of assets with its valuation. We have not received to date. We also know that the 500 million that was paid was actually not commensurate to the value of the assets of KCC then. What are you doing as a Cabinet Secretary to secure the assets of new KCC as they are? Because, Honorable Cabinet Secretary, you have a very rogue board, and you know what they were trying to do. You know what they have done with they wanted to do with the new KCC headquarters. Of course, you know the Tetra Pak house, and you also know the one in Ngong Road has already been leased out. What are you doing to secure the assets of new KCC? And when are you going to provide the comprehensive list of the assets of new KCC?
Senator Mgatana.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I was listening carefully to the answer the Honorable Cabinet Secretary was giving, and I wanted to draw his attention to the decision of the Court of Appeal when they negatived the decision of the High Court that the workers do not have a right. You said something very fundamental there. You said that the Court of Appeal said, despite, aside from the legalities, please, Attorney General, find a way for these workers to be paid. What I'm finding curious, Mr. Speaker, and this is where the question is, why, as a minister, and by the way, I'm glad that you took it up and wrote a letter to the Attorney General, but what the Court of Appeal is simply saying is that there is no legal basis for the payment of these workers, but there is a moral basis. That is, as ex gratia payment is due and owing. So the question is, why couldn't you call the litigants or their committee, just agree? You just tell them this is what the court has said. This is the end of it. Why can't we agree on 500,000 each person or 200,000? You negotiate and then seek the budget through a cabinet paper. Why then start forming interministerial committees? I don't know what. Why follow this long-sighted, winded process? Don't you think that's a way of trying to escape responsibility? Why can't you just shorten this process, write a cabinet paper, get funding for it, and pay these people. And why can't you do just a shortcut for this matter to be resolved? Because all the question the Senate is asking you is, can you shorten the timelines to finish this matter? Why can't you, Mr. Minister? I submit, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Veronica.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity, and welcome to Senate CS Cooperatives and Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Development. You have a big assignment in your hands, Honorable CS. And when I look at the answer you have given us regarding claims and terminal dues by employees who are in KCC in 1999, I get very concerned, because when our citizens invest in assets they believe to be co-owned by government, it means it's like a bond of guarantee that they cannot lose their investment and their dividend. But when a dispute is this prolonged and it's affecting people who are not very well able financially, it's not a very good statement. In fact, the treasury bills, why Kenyans invest in treasury bills is because there is a guarantee to that treasury bill returning dividends. So CS, when do you think you can pay these former employees of KCC, and why has the new KCC refused to oblige to the directive of a minimum price guarantee of 50 shillings per litre, a complaint which has come from a county like Nyandarua? I spoke to a few residents from Nyandarua whose milk is being sold below 40 shillings. Why are we having that confusion when the policy guideline on the price, the minimum guaranteed price for their milk, should not be below 50 shillings to the farmer and 3 shillings for administrative cost? Why do we have those disparities?
Senator Kisang.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, my supplementary question, I listened to the answers by the CS, Honorable Speaker, and the answers are very diplomatic, because the CS said we may pay after the subcommittee, the cabinet subcommittee finishes its job and Parliament allocates the resources. What I expected the CS to say, Honorable Speaker, is as the CS in charge of cooperatives, he will allocate resource, he'll budget for 2025, 26, and put in the budget. National Assembly appropriates what a proposal that you've already given. They don't initiate the proposal. So that's why the answers are basically diplomatic. And what Senator Mugadana said, basically this is a long way of delaying, because most of the employees, Honorable Speaker, have already passed on. The children, the spouses, are the ones they've been waiting for the last 30 years, Honorable Speaker. And let's basically, as a country, we say, may these people then, instead of using the law to frustrate our people, can we then auction the property for new KCC? Because, you know, they are forming new companies to evade responsibility, Honorable Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Senator Robert.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this matter for KCC was actually executed at the Labour Committee where I sit, Mr. Speaker. And I wanted to ask a supplementary question to Waziri, because I have seen that in his response, he has put a chronological order of what transpired. And from his response, from your response, Waziri, you can see that there are 3 issues that are being highlighted. Number 1, no one really knows how a company was sold on the basis of assets and profits, but liabilities were put aside, because we have engaged with the workers in the Labour Committee, and they were repeatedly informed that they were not part of the agreement and nothing to do with them was going to be absorbed in the new KCC. Much later, when they went to court, which you have also listed here, you can see that there is a suit where the employees were actually told that they are owed their dues. So my supplementary question is, first of all, are you aware that there has been conflicting communication to these employees First, that they are not part of any kind of sales agreement. The second one, they were told that some of them will be absorbed, and some of them had even alluded and presented some things in the Labor Committee that they had been extended some offer letters on work. So are you aware of that? And then suddenly they were dropped. The other question is it possible for Kenyans to see the documentation of the sale from KCC Limited to new KCC? Because then some of these questions would be answered, including the list of inventory of the assets, including what was going to happen to the employees of KCC. And finally, we, as the Labor Committee, we were very against the interministerial working group or committee, because there's nothing that they are going to discuss that has not been discussed and proposed by the Labor Committee. So are you aware that, in fact, the mandate of the interministerial committee has not been outlined and is not to the public? So why do we have an interministerial committee just to buy time and continue to frustrate these Kenyans? Thank you, Speaker.
Honorable CS, you may now proceed to respond to those questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the members for raising these very pertinent issues. Honorable Kamar talked of staff and the shares of the farmers. And I can say here, Honorable Speaker, that most of the staff of KCC that were suitable for employment were taken over by new KCC. And obviously, Honorable Speaker, this has taken time, and most of them have actually retired. On the shares of the farmers of KCC, when the new company, new KCC, through the government, bought the shares of KCC, the government paid off approximately 500 million Kenya shillings. And this money was meant to compensate the shareholders of KCC 2000, which was actually a private company. And I have clearly stated how the companies moved from one stage to the other. Of course, Mr. Speaker, I have had complaints from previous shareholders of the KCC even before it was bought by KCC 2000, complaining about their shares. But there is little that I can do at that moment because this particular company had already moved. And I intentionally gave you the history of the company so that you can actually understand when I come up with other comments. Mheshimiwa Mbugwa, you talked of about 6 months has taken. It is clearly, and Senator Mkantana has already said this, that actually these particular employees were not supposed to be compensated by new KCC, because new KCC is a complete answer. But because of moral, and we thought these are Kenyans who have worked for all those years, they need compensation, even from government point of view. And I want to assure you that I'm going to take up this issue seriously so that these people are compensated as soon as possible. And in case I have problems, I'll come back to you before this House to say that this is where I reached and these are the problems that I have encountered. Senator Mwanzo talked of ownership. I can clearly state here, and this will cover also the questions raised by Senator Mandako about assets. Assets were taken over, and I'm ready to come with a full inventory of assets that were taken over. In fact, when I assumed office, I ordered a forensic audit on all the assets of new KCC. Unfortunately, I wrote a letter to the Auditor General, but unfortunately she was supposed to send staff to carry out that exercise. Up to this time, she has not done so because of a shortage of staff and other pressing engagements. But I will make a follow-up so that a proper forensic audit is done, and I will avail the detailed inventory list of all the assets that were taken over by new KCC. The issue of governance in the cooperative movement is very rampant. And Mr. Speaker, I can say before you that that's why we came up with the Cooperative Bill 2024. The Cooperative Bill 2024 has gone through the National Assembly, and it is before this House. I want to plead with you, Mr. Speaker, that please let the House, the Senate, consider this legislation, the Cooperatives Bill 2024, and if it is passed, it will deal with many of these governance issues, because governance issues of the cooperative movement have been adequately addressed in that particular bill. The issue of assets and valuation, I've promised that this will be available, a comprehensive list, and that I will also remind the Auditor General to do a forensic audit so that both documents of the list I have, already which I have, and the forensic audit, I will present it to the Senate. The issue of Mkatana, I'm with you, Senator Mkatana, about the moral responsibility of the government to make sure that these people are paid, and I'm going to take the responsibility of making sure that these people are paid as short as possible within the time frame. But the issue of interministerial was not the creation of the ministry. This was a recommendation from the AG, Attorney General. He recommended that we discuss. As you might be aware, at that time, cooperatives as a state department was within the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock, so there might be some documents which are there, and that's why they were being brought in the fold, and also the Treasury to make sure that this allocation is expedited for this staff to be paid. On the issue of the minimum price for the milk, I want to state here categorically that it is 50 shillings. And I want to assure you that as I stand here, no farmer is owed any money for the milk that has been delivered, except for the month of March. And in the normal